Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today, we're finally wrapping up Jessica Jones and potentially getting rid of Kilgrave, or maybe not. Maybe he is our season 2 villain. But that's why you're listening to this episode, and hopefully watched the show before you listen to this episode, so you probably know. But for those of you who haven't, this is your moment. Pause, go watch the last episode, then come back to us. So, first thoughts on this episode.
About what I was expecting, which we kind of talked about it last episode, and we'll get into it. But it's kind of how I felt this was going to wrap up. In one particular scenario, I think the episode as a whole for me was a little messy. I don't know, especially in the middle. It just felt like there's all these ideas. It felt like there's too many irons in the fire. Like there's all these ideas, but nothing really felt like it kind of pieced together nicely. It just kind of felt like this little hodgepodge of various things that, I don't know, I guess weren't necessarily well written together. I don't know. I struggled a little bit with this episode, and there's certain things that just glaringly did not make any sense to me and from my point of view. And I will definitely get into them. There's, I guess, two particular moments. I'm just like, how are they doing this? Like, what? This makes no sense. But you know, there's some one particular cool factor, and like we kind of get into it right at the beginning, which we'll talk about. But yeah.
How about you, Lisa?
I did feel that this episode didn't have the kind of sense of urgency that you would think that a finale should. I think it's because it's a little bit too long. A lot of what's in the first half of the episode could have been cut out without sacrificing anything for the season or for this particular story. And it felt like it was put in there because of what I believe is a cameo. However, the cameo seems cool because the lady seems cool. But it felt a little bit weird that we kind of just hung out for a good chunk of the story whenever there's really big stuff that has to happen that we're all wanting to happen immediately. So yeah, overall, I did enjoy this one. We finally got some closure. We had some nice moments. But yeah, I just wish that it had felt a little bit more finish line before we got right to the finish line.
I will agree. I think that like you said, the first, 20, 25 minutes, it felt like, of this episode were kind of like, yeah, okay, thanks for introducing this character for something later. Like, you can't introduce a new character in the last episode, right? Like, no one's going to get to know them in time before the episode ends. So this is very clearly here's this character. And I believe we've seen her before. I think she's in the first season of Daredevil.
That was what I figured had to have been. Because we're spending an awful lot of time with this nurse.
Yeah.
Right.
And then she said that she has a friend who does the super thing. And I was like,
yeah, I mean, it's Rosario Dawson. And yeah, she's such an integral part of like Daredevil season 1. So it makes perfect sense this is how they're tying. This is Marvel's way of kind of tying the series together.
Yeah. And she's like the go-to doctor for all of them throughout all of these series until Punisher. I think he's the only one that like doesn't go to her.
Yeah,
but everybody else,
her being Punisher.
Yeah, everybody else deals with her. So it's like, I get that she's a big character sort of later on, but it did seem very much like, hey, look at this cool nurse, and she knows how to deal with superheroes, and she's really cool, and you should pay a lot of attention to her for no real reason when there are other things going on. Like, I get that we're worried. You know, we ended last episode. Jessica had to put down Luke Cage by shooting him in the head with a shotgun, and now he's passed out, and we're not really sure what's going on. I get that is something that needs to be taken care of, but it kind of seems like there are bigger fish to fry right now with Kilgrave being out there and knowingly trying to strengthen his powers. So if her name's Claire, right? I think the nurse.
Yeah, Claire Temple.
Yeah. So if Claire has got him, then Jessica should just be like, all right, cool. Tell him to call me when he wakes up. Like, it does seem like a lot of wasted space for this finale. I go both ways because it's sort of like, of the series, I do think Jessica Jones rates lower on my list. Not the lowest, Iron Fist, but lower. So I don't know. Like I get that there needs to be something to kind of draw you into more of who Luke Cage is and maybe what his potential weakness could be, so that then when we get Luke Cage, we can be like, okay, we know who he is, we know what his weakness is, we can get straight into the action. But it did seem like an odd place for them to do that in this series. This almost seems like something that they should have just ended last episode with.
Right. Like I like the concept of, like, someone mentioned about her, you know, she's like the night nurse. Like, you know, that could have been a cool shorts series of just moments with Claire and the various superheroes that she has to help. And just kind of like, I think that would be a really unique way of like tying this world together even more. And it kind of shows the impact, like, in that relationship between just like essentially a mutant and a non-mutant, and how she's helping them with their powers and their burdens. And you know, she's probably got so much on her plate. Like, I figured she's got to be stressed, like knowing like what all these people are going through.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm trying to remember what they are. Damage Control, isn't that the one that is trying to get Kamala Khan?
Yeah.
So I know that there's like a knockoff book series. I don't know if it's a series. I may be lying. I think it's just one book. But it's essentially about a world where there's superheroes, and there's this one company that has like 4 lawyers, and they deal with trying to get money back from the superheroes to pay for the damages that they caused during like fights and stuff. And I've always thought like that's such like a funny thing and like a real thing, and we kind of get like a little bit of it sprinkled in here and there with Marvel stuff, which is nice. At least, you know, I feel like DC just like never mentions it, but in Marvel, you know, we get that. I mean, that's basically the premise of Spider-Man Homecoming, right? Is that like, here's this guy who works for this company that's cleaning up Chitauri stuff, and they get fired and go crazy.
So Marvel, if you're listening, we'll get into this in the next episode, but there's one particular I Am Groot season 2 episode that needs a very specific follow-up on this topic.
Yeah. Yes. And we will discuss. Be sure to listen next time. So you I mean, if you watch the series, you may know what we're talking about. But be sure to listen next week. But I do think that this is something that would be a lot of fun. Like, what happened to the shorts? Why don't they do those anymore? Those are so much fun. A night nurse short would be great. Or it's just like her dealing with like weird, maybe even like superheroes that like don't need their own show or something. Just like bring in some weird off the wall. Like,
I mean, how cool would this be? This would be a great way to introduce like Blade. I think, you know, like she's dealing with someone that's trying to like steal all this blood, and she's got to figure out like why they're doing it, who's it going, where is it going, who's it for, and
or even maybe the way that she's dealing with it is she's stealing blood from the hospital to put aside for Blade.
Yeah,
and that's sort of like because we know that she's kind of like, you know, she's doing all this sort of pro bono-ish on the side for the superheroes, unrelated to her day job or night job, I guess.
Yeah, that's, I think, getting into like the whole Daredevil, like her role in Daredevil. I'm like, what does she ultimately want to gain from this? It's so much of her time and time she could be sleeping, and you know, like, is she profit? Like, I guess she's got free legal care.
Yeah. And superhero friends. I don't know,
Right.
because I mean, that is a good point. It is sort of like, it's nice that you're helping them, but
You got bills to pay.
also,
Like,
yeah. uh, yeah. So, I mean, I think again, it's like semi important to see all of it, but it definitely feels like something that should have been left for the last episode that we watched. That could have been how it ended. And then we start this episode with like, okay, teams back together. Let's
mhm.
go get Kilgrave. Uh, Unfortunately, that's not how it goes. So let's talk Kilgrave. Still creepy. A little more powerful. Although I
Is
guess
he
we don't,
though? Is he
yeah,
though?
we
That's
don't
my one of my
really,
biggest questions. Is it's
we don't
like
really see
sprinkled
it.
in throughout this because it's like she goes back to the hospital and he's able to use his abilities over the phone and she calls him out on that and then he gets everyone to watch the TV. But even still, like, I don't know, it just feels like, is he really that powerful? Because it doesn't seem, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's much. And there's
Mhm.
another particular moment that we see a little bit later on that I was hoping they would do something really cool with and they don't. But yeah, I don't know. I wish it was a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, they tell us that he's got everyone in the hospital under control, but we only see
Yeah.
like 7.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and him doing stuff like the phone stuff and over TV, it goes back to like, so what are his powers?
Yeah.
Is it just the power of suggestion?
That
Or is
it
it, what does it have to do with the pheromones again? Like,
If
how does that
anything.
work?
and that's what I kind of thought they were going to lead into, is that more of that stuff in him would basically unlock that ability, and that's like what he would become. Like that would be the true power.
Hmm.
And we don't really get that. We don't get. I feel like we don't get much. It feels like that whole hospital scene was like a nod to Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
Because you just got a little pocket of people and then just could just like knocks someone out and then puts on their outfit and just kind of walks with them.
Yeah.
But granted, they seemed smarter because the one lady continuously looked at her. She was like,
Hmm.
you got to be her. Like, it was just like the way she looked at her.
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting the idea that like he could tell somebody to do something or say something to Jessica, but like, are we imagining that he like shows them all a picture of what she looks like? Like
Well, he
if he
put it,
just said find Jessica
yeah,
Jones and you didn't know who Jessica Jones was, even if you were
right.
hypnotized, you still don't know who Jessica Jones is.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, in this scenario, he had everyone watching the TV that had her
Mhm.
picture.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that. But as we're talking about this, I'm just thinking back to the episode with like the bar and everyone in that situation. Like, there's no difference between that and this. It
Mhm.
feels like his powers are the same here. Like, I don't really
Mhm.
see, unless it's just like they were amplified because he could do this through, but he was still in the building.
Right.
He was in the control room, so he still had to be there.
Right. So then it comes back to, okay, so is it just that like he can release more of his pheromones to cover like a larger area without having to be
Yeah.
in like personal space with somebody? Or
And before we get to this episode, they like hyped it up that his ability only would last so long, and I feel like that wasn't necessarily covered anymore. It was just kind of, I gotta be more
Mhm.
powerful. But what does that really mean? Like I wish they
Mhm.
spent more time to go into that.
I want to see like a infrared
Uh-huh.
vision shot of him to see like how big the bubble of his
Mm-hmm.
area of effect is. Is it 6 feet around him? Is it 40 feet around him? I mean, we see him in
Yeah.
episodes like call to people
Mm-hmm.
seemingly at like a pretty good distance away, and he's able to affect them. So it's like, yeah, is it just that his gas that he gives off, or whatever you want to call it, is like this huge area around him, and everyone in it is primed for him to suggest something for them? Or
I don't know if it's that. I mean, I wish they would have just would state it or not, because the moments we get with his dad, he's saying like how much, like if we just do it all, what's going to happen? And then when we get that moment when he's getting injected, and you can see like that purple, like in his veins, just kind of creep up his neck. I was hoping like he'd either become like the purple figure from the comics, or if anything, look disfigured and be like half what he's been looking like in half purple.
Right.
Like that could have been cool. But no, we don't really get any of that.
He also, like, later in the episode, he is successfully thwarted by a pair of headphones.
Yeah.
Which feels weak.
Exactly. That's the other point. It's like, it can't be a pheromone thing. It's got to be through his voice and presence. But the fact that you could just wear headphones, I don't know.
And listen to a really great song by Sleigh Bells.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I seem to remember that this was kind of like the bummer for this season, as far as like, oh, it was pretty interesting. You're building up this villain. We get to the final episode, and the villain is kind of the same that he's been through the whole show, and also pretty easily avoided, like his ability. So it kind of makes him not as threatening for what should have been his like most threatening, right? Like this should have been like scary. Oh my gosh, he's got like a ton of people that are going to do something crazy. And instead it's just sort of, all right, well, he's got all these people, they're not really doing anything. It just sort of seems like it was before. And then to your point, like, some headphones is all it takes to avoid him.
Yeah.
Seems like an easy problem to fix.
The things that he does and the decisions that he makes, it makes me wonder, like, instead of having all these people like fight Jessica, it's like he's making them fight themselves. And it's just through Jessica's point of view. I mean, it's like, I get it. Like, she needs to be the hero. She doesn't need to kill people. But what would have been a different experience if he had them like going directly after her in that last moment versus going after each other? Because it's like all she had to do was walk through him, right? They could like, and it felt like they were still like, I mean, they could have definitely upped the ante here, because he's, what do you say, like kill each other? Like he's trying to get them to kill each other, but you don't really see them going like that intense. Like it's kind of wrestle on the ground a little bit.
Like classic movie background crazy extras.
Where like I thought it was going to get a little more intense, because you had the one guy with the big hammer that he's holding on to, and I was like, okay, where is this going to go? And then it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, and then they try to increase the tension, right? Like Trisha's headphones get knocked off, right? And then that's when it's like, uh-oh, now she's vulnerable. And it also seems to affect Jessica, and you're like, oh, did he get stronger? No, I don't think so. And even he, right, is kind of like, I don't think I'm that strong yet.
Yeah.
And so the whole time you're like, man, you were like such a creepy, awful bad guy. And now you're kind of like this could have been the first time that we met him. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it would have made sense. You would have been like, oh, he's kind of weird and he has a power. He controls people. But it's like, well, we know that by now. And we know that he can do crazier things than this. So to your point, like, why just be like, kill each other? That seems
And especially like the moments we get when Jessica's like looking for his dad, like even that moment was super intense. Like we could have had more of that at the end. I mean, the one guy like cut off his arm, like
that was, and then you saw the guy trying to shove the arm down the garbage disposal, and I was like, honey, that's not gonna. I know that you're new to murder, but
it's like with his ability, like he tells people to do these things, but it's so quick that they have no time to think. It's like you can't think about it. You're told to do this, and your instincts are just okay. I got to do it, but you don't really know the best. Naturally they probably think it through a little bit, but they're just kind of whatever's near them, they'll just do. Kill this person. Let me tug at their shirt.
Right. Yeah, they're not even like. Yeah.
They just got off a booze cruise.
Oh yeah, like they're all of us.
And so then it makes you like, okay, is that part of it? Like, since they're drunk, is it's them being affected? Are they still drunk? So that maybe they don't think about that. They're just like, yeah, and I get you. Yeah, I don't know. But then we get to the part that we've all been waiting for, where Jessica successfully tricks Kilgrave in basically just by saying I love you, which is all he's wanted this whole time. And she says it, and they hug, and she snaps his neck. And that's the end of Kilgrave in a very, like, sort of anticlimactic way, right?
Yeah. He went in real easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's like, you could have done that episode 2. Like, why did we take an entire 13 episodes for you to do that?
And you think he would have noticed, or she clearly wasn't looking at him when she said, I love you.
Right.
Like, earlier season Kilgrave would have definitely noticed that. But this one did not. Maybe the juice that they put into him fried his brain and made him stupider.
That's another point. It's like, could there have been more story there where like his dad was not fully under control and he was kind of making something else that was going to make him weaker? Like, I think there could have been more there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole season I was kind of like, man, I hope she gets rid of him because like he's a bad dude. But then the more we talked about like what could be, it's like, yeah, it would have been great to keep him around because like he could have been a really good big bad down the line, or even just like a bad guy that could show up occasionally. Like, for her killing him, it's like, yay, Jessica. But also it's like, oh no, Jessica, that's not what heroes do.
Yeah.
In this case, it is a little bit.
A little bit. But, this, you could try to relate this to like the end of Man of Steel, like switching over to DC, but like, with Superman versus Zod, like Superman just doesn't want to harm, he doesn't want to kill, and he's put in that a very similar position. It's like it's kind of like the only choice, from Jessica's perspective, she probably knows like this guy's never going to stop. This is really the only way.
Right. Well, I don't really know if she does the right thing or not, but she is at least arrested for Kilgrave's murder. I don't know if she turned herself in or if she was just like, oh, you got me. I killed him.
Yeah.
But then Hogarth pops up and takes care of that, gets Jessica out by saying that, oh, he committed suicide. Interesting defense, but okay. We do see Trish get a little bit more info on IGH. I know you were looking for that, Luke.
That's what I was expecting to happen. I was like, we probably aren't going to get any. We're probably going to get, something like this. That was basically this is what season 2 is probably going to be more about. Is
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I gotta watch season 2. I gotta know.
Right, right up there with like them getting a letter from IGH, and you're like, right. Oh, they got information. We didn't get anything. Malcolm, he's doing good. He's sort of an off again, on again character through this whole season, and now he's Jessica's assistant. So, yay, Malcolm!
Yeah,
climbing the ladder. Yeah, that's Jessica leaves the season as if she's done, right? Like she's not a superhero, she's not going to be a hero. This was just something she had to do because it was personal, and now she's done. Nobody believes it, It's hard to now because we all know that there's another 2 seasons of the show. But nice try to trick us by being like, she's done being a superhero. Okay. I'm excited for season 2. I'm excited to continue watching all of these because, again, I do enjoy the Netflix series. I feel like it's going to be drastically different when we watch one of the other ones. Like, hands down, Daredevil's probably top, right? So when we watch Daredevil, it's almost going to feel like night and day. It's not going to be as like weird and sort of creepy. I feel like Daredevil's a lot more like action-y, lawyery than it is like sketchy, creepy.
Yeah, I mean, they did such a great job with Kingpin. Matt Murdock, he's like for the people. Like he wants to protect like where he's at, and Kingpin's like, I'm gonna buy up everything and make it
right.
Kingpin
is scary because he's scary, not because he's creepy.
Yeah. He's just like power. Like he just has that.
Yeah. I never watch him say something and go, ew. But I feel like that's most of what Kilgrave says. You're like, oh god.
No, Kingpin is like, this dude's about to snap my neck. Like, he's just a
like Jessica did to Kilgrave.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, it was a fun season. Again, excited for more. We'll discuss which one we're going to watch next, but I know we're going to try to do Daredevil before the new season comes out, but I don't know if that.
Granted, at this point, we don't know what's going to happen just yet.
Yeah. We're not,
so
I think it'll still happen.
I think it's still going to happen. I'm just curious if we'll get any announcements for it before this year's up.
Probably not. Yeah. Other than it's been delayed, or it's been paused, or whatever lingo they're using now to.
Yeah, I guess the big one is going to be whenever the strike is officially over. Hopefully, it'll be over, or something happens where the studios will be in a position where, okay, we have to make some kind of announcements, and they'll let people know.
Yeah, it's interesting that they haven't already. You'd think that, short of them just doing what these people are asking them to do, which is just to pay them fairly, short of that, just say that like, oh, everything is on hold, or everything is being pushed back, or we've actually already shot it all and it will be released on time. Well, the Echo thing is still wildly confusing to me to keep pushing back, but whatever. All
I
right. Well,
guess
let's.
I was gonna say, I guess Disney already had their D23 event for this year, but there was no Marvel or there was no like media announcements. It was more about the parks.
Well, that doesn't help. What, what do we need to know about the parks? Well, I guess on this, let's answer our question from last week, which was, what Marvel property are you most excited for? I can go first. I am most excited for X-Men 97. I think I'm excited to hear the song again and to know if they did any sort of like remixed version. I'm excited to see the characters. I keep seeing all these things about all the toys, and the toys look cool, so I want those. But yeah, I think that nostalgia wise and just like something fun to watch on the side for more than one movie's worth, that's what it's going to be for me.
Nice. I gotta go Spider-Man freshman year. I like Spider-Man. I really like the character, or at least Tom Holland's version of it. So kind of getting this animated approach that's in that universe, or at least his, hopefully it'll be kind of like based around his particular Spider-Man. Yeah, I think that's gonna be pretty cool. So I hope it's good.
Thanks. I'm most excited about Loki season 2. Obviously, I mean, y'all know I'm Norse trash, but most of what I've heard about season 2 sounds encouraging. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. They promise it's going to be even weirder than season 1, which, good luck. But on top of that, I'm also very excited for What If season 2. That's another one that's coming up hopefully within the next few months. Because I really enjoyed like the entire experience of getting to watch season 1 of What If, where we had all of our actors back and every episode was a fun little self-contained story. And I want to see where they go in season 2.
And what else they can secretly force the regular MCU to make the live action version of.
Right. Isn't that like basically what we're getting for Christmas? Didn't What If season 2 get moved to December?
I can't even keep up anymore.
That's what I think. It'd be awesome if they were hiding like another Halloween special.
Please.
Like that would be so cool if they'd like actually have something they can release and they've been keeping it secret. That would be a fun surprise. But
wouldn't it be super fun if it was like Blade?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, as long as it's not Werewolf by Night again, like if they give us something different, I'm all for it.
I would be happy with another Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. I'm not gonna not watch it. It's gonna be good, but I just mean, I want them to build this weird like dark universe monster mash. This is an aside, but for any comic fans out there, so Marvel released or announced who its new Ghost Rider is going to be. I don't know if you guys have seen any of this. It's Wolverine. Wolverine's the new Ghost Rider. What a cool, weird combo crossover. And he's like, his skull is adamantium, so it's like a big metal flaming skull. Yeah, it's wild and doesn't make sense, but I'm excited to see a live action version of that. So listen up, Disney. You got a lot of work to do. You got to introduce us to some mutants here soon. Had nothing to do with anything we were talking about, but I was excited because I remembered it. All right, let's think of a question for next week. Next week we're doing I Am Groot, so keep that in mind. Maybe we do like, who do you wish could either join the Guardians or a Guardian from the comics? Who do you wish you could see join the MCU. I already know what mine is, so.
Who is writing down the question?
Oh, yeah, I'll write it down.
You know what we need to do again? We need to do another art one, like we did with the shoes.
Yeah.
Art.
We need to do something like that. We need to think of something.
That'll be our personal challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe
we need to draw our own little I Am Groot sketch.
that
would be fun. That would be something fun that Disney Plus should do. Like, if you want to be in the next I Am Groot series, like come up with your own little shorter sketch.
That would be cool.
Draw it out and send this to us. That'd be fun.
Listen up, Disney. Just giving you guys ideas.
Yeah.
For free. You don't even sponsor us yet. Well, thank you all for listening this week. Join us next week for I Am Groot and the thrilling answers to our question from this week. And maybe a picture of Groot from each of us. So join us next week. See you guys then.